have something of an announcement to make. It turns out that a very wonderful opportunity has just presented itself in the form of me not necessarily working at Globodine anymore. There is nothing to worry about. I'm going to get my severance, money from my pension. We're fine. I am a winner.
It's the classic case. When Jim Carrey's character loses a job in the movie Dick and Jane, he pumps himself up by blowing up that all-too-reliable male ego.
Welcome back to Studio 5. Here's the truth of it. We all have an ego, right?
Yeah.
Men just seem to have a little more of it.
Is that what you're saying?
Possibly than others. So how do you deal with the male ego? Well, someone who knows all about ego. Studio 5 relationship coach Matt Townsend.
That's rude.
Well, I meant it with love. I did.
Well, I take it with rudeness.
Ego is not necessarily a bad thing,
Ego,
right?
good.
Good, okay.
Think of it. If we didn't have an ego, why would we fight stupid points and ever let you win? If we didn't have it, you know, the ego's a big deal. And by the way, we all have it, because if I made fun of your knick-knack paddywhacks and all those things you make on this show, if I made fun of them, you'd kill me.
Oh.
Your ego would, not you. The hypothetical watcher, viewer.
So how do you define ego?
Ego is this sense of who we are. See, men, it's a really weird deal. Whenever men are living, we're living trying to make sure that the sense of who we are is always in place. We want to, like he's trying to say, I didn't get fired, I got another opportunity to be an even bigger winner somewhere else and make money some other way. We want to not lose place, not lose status, not lose position, not lose hierarchy. It's a constant battle with the male, and I honestly believe here's why. If I'm supposed to go be your protector and your provider, I need to have some ego, because that thing's a cheetah and it could rip me to shreds. And my ego says, no, it's just pretty and it's flashy, but you can handle it. And my ego gets me to go do stuff that my intellect would say, no way. People die doing this. But my ego says, you know what, try it. What's going to hurt us?
It's like the typical thing when you're a teenager and your friends dare you to do something, and you can't have your ego be bruised, and so you end up doing stupid things just to save your ego.
And it's like, we'll fight over semantics with our wife because, no, you don't say it that way, you say it this way, and you say it this way. And I was on radio the other day, and we were like talking about how you say Ashton Kutcher's name. Is it Kutcher or Kutcher? And the ego starts, no, I'm pretty sure it's Kutcher. So we start to battle about it. So that's why I think we get into fights about stupid stuff. But the ego doesn't have to be our enemy. It really doesn't. And
I get that. The same thing that we'll sometimes roll our eyes about, you know, with your husbands or the guys in your life, is the same thing you appreciate about them when they step up to the plate. But there are days when you want to roll your eyes.
You want to just,
So how do you deal? How do you deal?
So here's the 5 keys. There's 5 keys we're going to talk about. Now, but remember, the ego is important, and it's always there. Okay, so here's the 5 keys to dealing with the male ego. Ladies, you've got to learn this, because this doesn't go away. And you can keep trying to say something, but our egos are always going to, you're going to have to go around the ego, okay? So the first key is this. You've got to see the male ego as your friend, not your foe. Now, guess where I learned this lesson? As about a 14-year-old boy, when my neighbor friend, who has a goat, needed to have the goat milked when he went on vacation.
Oh, no.
And to me, the goat and the male ego are very parallel. Don't be offended, any men out there. But this goat, at first, my friend was like, look, they don't like to be milked, and they need to be milked. And you just can't let them win. So, which was easy. It's easy to milk a goat when the owner's there and everyone that knows how to do it is there. Well, they all left for Flaming Gorge, and I was left with the goat.
Okay.
And I had all day.
You're a 14-year-old
And I had to milk him like 2 or 3 times, I think, that day. So the first time, I'm like, head on. This goat is my enemy, and I chased him all morning. And I chased that ego, and I chased the ego, or the goat, the ego goat. That's the same thing that happens with our relationship. If you treat the male ego as your enemy, you're going to take it on as a combatant. When the male ego sees a combatant, it will fight you. When the male ego sees a friend in his wife, not someone who's trying to prove him wrong or beat him or whatever, then you have a shot. So I eventually had to learn what the goat needed. And I learned that if I got some grass and I got something and I was gentle and I just gently kind of snuck up to it and fed it and then slowly worked it back to where I needed it to be and then cinched his head in there and milked that little mother. When I did that, I understood that I now had power with the goat.
And thus it is the parable of the ego goat.
The ego goat. Take that to grandma. That's powerful. But see, the men's the same way. If you want to take the man straight on and you want to have a fight about semantics, bring it on. Because we got nothing to lose here. Men know that they'd rather die than look bad in an argument. So a lot of times you have to battle the ego. So some of the best ways to do that is go in the back door, sneak in, try to ease your way in. You don't always have to have the argument or the discussion straight on. The male ego, you have to go through part of the brain of the male that's the amygdala, called the fight or flight.
Okay.
And when you go through that, you better be ready to be nice.
But back door, when you're going around an issue, when you're tiptoeing into a fight, isn't that manipulation a little bit? Manipulating the conversation?
Are you saying I manipulated the goat?
Well,
yes.
But you did manipulate the goat.
It is manipulation.
There's nothing wrong with manipulation.
Right. You women and men, let's be very real. We're all manipulating each other constantly, right?
Yeah.
You manipulate us to get dishes done. We manipulate you to get some loving.
Okay.
It's out there. We do that. Now, it's not, you can call it manipulation. Some people just call it relating. Relating is working with somebody the way they need to be worked with to get the results we need, okay? So the first key is see your male ego, see the male ego as a friend, not a foe. If you think it's an ego or a foe, you're going to take it on as a foe. Rule number 2, okay? Talk to your partner like a peer, not a parent. When men communicate, the ego is always in play. Anytime you put yourself above us, you tell us what we're doing, you tell us what we shouldn't do, you tell us what is right or wrong, and you judge us, you sound like our mother. And usually that's, ladies, when you'll hear a phrase like, quit nagging me, you sound just like my mother. If you've ever heard that phrase from your horrible husband, you've probably crossed the line on ego. And it's not like we mean that. It's just you don't know how subtle it is for us, but we feel like you're attacking us. We feel like you're bringing up something that we already know, and we don't want to talk about it. That's why we didn't bring it up. But you want to talk about it because let's get that out there. We need that out there to talk about it. And it just reminds us of a weird hierarchy. Last woman to have a hierarchy on us was the mother. Don't be my parent, be my peer.
And
so
most
come to
women
me
probably don't want to be the mother-in-law.
No, and by the way,
Let's be honest.
you want to bring the issue up for a reason.
Not in any offensive way.
Yeah, exactly. We don't. Third rule, right? Don't interrogate and stop leading the witness. One way that ladies try to get men to talk, it's a universal way to get people to talk, is we do what? How do you get someone to talk?
You ask them a question.
You ask them a simple question. Because when you ask a question, they're going to start giving you answers, apparently.
What's wrong with questions?
Well, questions sometimes don't come at the right time. Sometimes a question is kind of a leading question. Like, didn't you know that you don't load the dishwasher that way?
Which isn't a question, which is purely like a judgmental kind of thing.
And then I would say, Your Honor, I object. She's leading the witness. So we don't do it. Questions are dangerous for 3 reasons. Okay, you ready for these? Questions can carry judgment. Why? Why did you do that? You don't feed the baby that way. Didn't you know that? Anytime you're inflecting, there's judgment.
Okay.
So in order to make a question, you usually have to go, why? When? Where? Anyway, that's just, I like to have fun with that. Questions put others in charge of the conversation. Whoever's asking the questions is now in charge. If you have an ego issue, not even a big ego issue, if someone's always in charge of leading where this conversation's going, especially if it's my pain, I don't want you leading my pain. So if I had a horrible day, I don't want to talk about it, I just got fired, and you say, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong.
You're poking the ego.
You're poking the ego.
Okay.
Nobody likes to be poked, right? And the third one is questions usually demand some form of answers. Men like to have choice. And when you ask a question, we kind of feel obligated to answer. And you may not like our answers. And so a lot of times we feel like we're losing our choice. Now, it's hard. So then how do we get people talking without questions? Well, a lot of times you can just use a statement. So instead of saying, are you mad? Just say, honey, you seem mad. State it. Honey, you're angry.
But that doesn't often get a conversation going.
Well, watch. I mean, there's going to be an awkward silence. Honey, you seem mad.
Let it sit.
Just let it sit.
And pretty soon they're going to say, I'm not mad, or I'm mad because...
Or they'll say, I'm mad and I don't want to talk about it. Or I don't want to talk about it.
I like your next tip, to let him solve it his way. That's kind of what the sitting is about.
Yeah.
To make the statement, let it sit, and then demand accountability. How do you do that without
What we end up doing, we get in this silly battle about whose idea and whose idea we're going to use. The deal is men want to solve it fast because we don't want to talk about it, but women understand we got to go deeper to get the right answer. Sometimes it's okay to just let him solve it, but demand that there's accountability. Great, honey. You want? Let's do it your way. We'll solve it your way. let's solve it right away, and let's agree that in 1 week we're going to come back here and we're going to sit down and see if it worked. And if it didn't work, let's agree that we'll have a deeper conversation. That way we get the deal done, we get it deeper, and we move on.
And some of his ego will kick into effect and make sure something gets done because he doesn't want to have that ego bruised.
That's exactly right. And we don't need to dance around the ego, okay, the whole time. Eventually, this is the best way to fix the ego. You fix your problems in the light of day, not in the darkness of night.
What does that mean?
Meaning, focus on the light, not the dark. If you want to fix a problem you're having with your husband, don't focus on it when it's ugly and nasty and dark and the problem's right there. Go find an example where it's working. Like if you, for example, want your partner to take you out on dates more, don't focus on the 4 nights you didn't go on a date. Focus on the moment you spent a half hour together at the store and you felt close to him, and say, you know what, when I spend time with you like this, it makes me feel closer to you. I'd love to spend more time with you. So that's the light. If you'll work with us when we're doing it great and there's light, we love that because that boosts the ego.
Feeds the ego.
When you focus on us where we're failing, we don't like to go there. And we immediately put up barriers. And, by the way, guys, grow up. Notice you have an ego, and don't just fight it and make them change. You also have to change and notice the ego and learn to adapt. So it's not just women having to change and adjust, but it's a goat, for crying out loud. And if you want milk out of the goat, which is good for the goat and it's good for me, we got to make it happen.
Love it.
The ego goat story. What's on tap for the next Smart Life?
Smart Life is what we talk about, is this male ego thing. This week we're talking about communications. Every Thursday from 1 to 2:30 in my office, $15 a head, tons of fun. Call or just go to TOwnsend.com. You can get all the details. This is for women. Only women.
It's Girl Gab plus Matt.
It's Girl Gab plus Matt. No
What
men
could be
allowed
better?
except the alpha man.
They gab about our egos
big go.
there. Thanks for stopping in, Matt.
Thanks, kids.
Okay.